I would like to speak with you, and there are subtopics for our meeting. So, conflict management style, culture's impact on conflict behavior, and Asians' preferences of strategies to manage interpersonal conflicts. Have you subject like conflict management or something like that? Okay, so my topic is very narrow. It's conflict communication. So communication during conflicts. And are there differences or no? So we will discuss it together today. Okay, so firstly, let's start from the definition. And that is because there are a lot of definitions of conflicts. So even in the field literature, I have found 86 definitions. So researchers are brave to define this phenomena according to them in the right way. So which one way is correct? I don't know. So that is why today, for today's meeting, for today's purpose, I use three definitions. One of it is that conflict is perceived incompatibility. So I suppose most of you can agree with this definition. So incompatibility of interest, of wishes, of processes, incompatibility. But according to the other researchers, so to Hawker and Wilmot, it's not enough to have conflict. Incompatibility is only the entrance to conflict. So perceived incompatibility, we need to have conflict, but if we have perceived incompatibility, it doesn't mean that we are in conflict. To be in conflict, there are two more conditions. So one more condition is interdependence between parties. So, okay, it's quite an important condition. If I am interdependent with you, I can be in conflict with you. If someone is far away and there is no connections, interdependence between us, so no possible conflict between us. Okay, and one more condition. So there are communicative exchange. You see? No. Okay, communicative exchanges. And here I would like to use one more definition of that of Deutsch, and he says that, so what do we mean by communicative exchanges? So that is activities, and the one person's actions are interfering, obstructing, or in the other ways making the behavior of another less effective. So if there are actions, and in my opinion, these actions are interfering, obstructing, and making my efforts less effective, I shall say that I am in conflict. That is the definition of conflict, and these three definitions fit today to the topic we are speaking about. However, there is one more term here, and that is conflict style, conflict management style. So, there are a lot of actions I can use to manage conflict. There are a lot of actions I can involve, I can use to resolve my conflicts. So if I ask you to write the ways you resolve your conflict, you will need 2 hours, maybe 5 sheets of papers, because we are creative enough. And it depends on our settings. And we can create a lot of ways to resolve our incompatibilities. So, what to do? And researchers have found another way, and they are talking about conflict management style. So, orientation to conflict. And according to the researchers, there are now plenty of orientations. According to several of them, there are only two orientations in a conflict situation. One of them is orientation to station is to win, to be the winner. One other opposite is to run away, to avoid. However, I would like to speak today about the approach which discuss 5 styles of conflict management. So, according to this approach, there are 5 orientations. And your actions depend on the orientation. So, it is not important what action do you take, it's important what is your orientation. Okay, and one more important thing from the theory, that individuals have a predominant conflict styles. So, I can say, theoretically there are 5 of them. But if I investigate you, maybe I will see that there are 1 or 2 of them in your repertoire. So what I'd like to do now, I'd like to measure your conflict styles. I'd like to show you this instrument because they are quite similar. So we have the imagination how we can measure this style. And now I would like to ask you. So there will be 25 statements. I hope it will take us only 10 minutes and we will know our conflict management style, most preferred conflict management style. So, so there will be 25 statements. What I'm asking to do, to write the score near the number of statements. For example, there is the first statement and here is the number 1 for the first statement. Let's write your score. So let's write never. If you feel that you never do this, write 1. If you feel that, okay, seldom I behave this way, write 2. And sometimes put 3 in that case. Often, oh, I often do this, I often behave like that, so write the 4. And 5, if you always behave in this way. Okay, so I will read a statement, and there are important 2 things. One of them is the order. As you see, when there is 5 per 5th statement, I would like you return to the first column and start from the beginning. Okay, so the order. And next one, let's think about someone with whom you have conflict. Let's say this is your supervisor. Okay? Is it okay? So let's, every one of you have your supervisor. Is it okay? No. So teacher or someone from the university. So not member of family. So this is formal relationship. Okay? Someone with formal and upper status. Okay? Let's remember this person. Let's remember or imagine you have conflict with him or her. So, the first statement is, I avoid being put on the spot. I keep conflicts to myself. And put your score. Never 1. So learn 2. In this instance. Okay? Is it clear the instruction? Do you need I repeat the statement? I avoid being put on the spot. I keep conflict to myself. Okay, the second statement. I use my influence to get my ideas accepted. If you need me to read one more, okay. The third statement. I usually try to split the differences in order to resolve an issue. The fourth statement. I generally try to satisfy the other's need. The fifth statement. I try to investigate an issue to find a solution acceptable to us. And now that will be the sixth statement. So please write the score under the first one. Okay, the sixth statement is I usually avoid open discussion of my differences with that person. I usually avoid open discussion of my differences with that person. 7. I use my authority to make a decision in my favor. 8. I try to find a middle course to resolve an impasse. 9. I usually accommodate the other's wishes. 10. I try to integrate my ideas with the others to come up with a decision jointly. Okay, 11. So, return to the first column. I try to stay away from disagreement with that person. 12. I use my expertise to make a decision that favors me. 13. I propose a middle ground for breaking deadlocks. 14. I give in to the opponent's wishes, to that person's wishes. I give in to the person's wishes. 15. I try to work with this person to find solutions that satisfy both our expectations. Okay, and now this is 16th statement, so let's return to the first column. I try to keep my disagreements to myself in order to avoid hard feelings. 17. I generally pursue my side of an issue. Pursue my side of an issue. 17. 18. I negotiate with this person to reach a compromise. 19. I often go with the other's suggestions, with that person's suggestions. I often go with that person's suggestions. 20. I exchange accurate information with the other so we can solve a problem together. And final attempts to measure your conflict management style. So, 21st statement. I try to avoid unpleasant exchanges with this person. The next statement. I sometimes use my power to win. The 23rd statement. I use give and take so that a compromise can be made. The 24th statement. I try to satisfy the other's expectation. And the last statement. I try to bring all our concerns out in the open so that the issues can be resolved. So previously I have said that there are 5 orientations. So that is why there are 5 columns. So let's count your scores on each column. I can show here. On each column, and you will see which one is the most useful for you. So, avoiding, you prefer the most avoiding if you have maximum, if there are the most points here in this column. Competition. The second column, compromise, accommodation, collaboration. So, I am right. Do you have one style? One style with the person who is upper to you. Is it avoiding? Really? Or accommodation? Who has competition? Okay, and collaboration. Okay, thank you. So, is here someone who has very similar points for each column? Okay, if there are similar points, it means that it depends on situation. And you use all styles. However, not every one of us analyze situation in this way and use all styles. Okay, similarities. So, you can now fill the gaps in the conclusion of this measurement. Yeah. Yeah, and I will explain that. Yeah. So, we have our scores. We have names for our most preferred style. And what does it mean? So I will shortly explain you the meaning of this styles. So to describe our behavior in conflict, our orientation, 2 dimensions are used. One of the dimensions is concern for self. So I have the goal. I have the purpose. And this is very important in every conflict situation. However, this purpose may be low for me, so not so important or very, very important. And it difference what style I will use in my situation. Is it clear, the first dimension? Concern for self, so my interest in this situation. Another dimension is my opponent. So my opponent is here as well, and he or she has his interests. for him. And this purpose might be law. Okay, it's not important for him now, at least. So, what style will we use if it is very important for us, extremely important to achieve, and I don't care about my opponent. I don't see my opponent. It's a problem. So, what style I use in this situation? From that fight, that's my orientation. So to win, to have my purpose, to achieve my interests.
Competition?
Yeah, it's dominating. So this style domination, it means orientation to myself. To see only myself in the situation. The domination, that is its meaning. Okay, so and what about actions? Oh, there are a lot of actions to achieve our purposes in conflict. So, request, insist, demand, criticize. So, tactics may be confrontational tactics, and there may be as well aggressive tactics in this situation. So, it depends on a lot of factors. It depends. However, the examples of the tactics of domination of competition. Okay, let's continue. So, problem solving, collaboration, integration. What does it mean? What does mean this orientation? Okay, it's me, and I have my purpose. However, there is obstacle from the other side. So the other side has his or her purpose. So our purposes are incompatible. However, we need to do something to both to achieve our purposes. So my purpose is important and the other's purpose is important. This is the orientation we call collaboration. Let's find the way we both achieve our purposes. So, what can be the examples of actions to behave in accordance to this orientation? So, discussions, empathy, emphasizing commonalities, listening, sharing views openly. So this is actions we use when we have orientation to collaborate. Let's continue, yeah? So, if it is not important for me, but it's very important for my opponent, and I would like to have good relationship with my opponent, what style, what orientation I have? Accommodating or obliging, so there are synonyms of them. So, some examples. Putting the other party's interest first, considering the other's demands, seeing the other, not myself in this situation. Okay, and there is the next time, it's avoiding. So, I escape from the situation. I can change the topic. I can put this issue and be away from it, and it's when the issue is not important for me, and as well the issue is not important for the opponent. And here in the middle is compromise. So, do you have questions about this orientations? Okay, so let's continue. So, my question is, why do we use different styles? And one of factor to think today culture. Maybe it is because of our culture. And the culture is the important factor which influences our styles. So, how we define the conflict problem? It depends on our, it's very across cultures and it depends on our culture. So it is valuable to understand how culture influences the way people manage conflict. And findings can be a valuable source in predicting conflict resolution patterns. According to Oudenhoven, success and failure of international collaborations not only depends on managing economic and legal obstacles, but also on an effective handling of cultural differences in conflict resolution. So, variation in conflict management as a function of country can be understood in terms of cultural dimensions on which these countries vary. According to Hofstede, national cultures can be distinguished along 4 fundamental dimensions. So, one of them is individualism, collectivism. Have you heard about Hofstede? So nice. As you see, for conflict resolution, I use only several values. Okay? So, personal goals, autonomy, assertiveness, and you can continue. However, let's continue. And what can we see? There are studies and researchers have compared Americans and Japanese, Americans and Koreans, Chinese, Japanese, German, Americans, and their conclusion is, indeed, there are differences. So, individualists, so who are they? Americans, German, they used collaboration and dominating more often than collectivists. So than Japanese, than Koreans. That is the conclusion of these comparisons. Okay, what is the other dimension of Hofstede? So, individualism, collectivism. And what about Spain? Where are you in this? Are you individualistic culture? Are you a collectivistic culture?
I think it's an in-between culture because
yeah.
as we are in a crossroads, we got like kind of individualism from Europe and the collectivism from...
So similar as Lithuanians, we are moderate on this dimension. Lithuania has 60 scores, Spain has 51 scores. Okay, so let's continue. The next dimension is power distance. So, high power distance culture, authority, obedience, conformity, and equality is very important for low power distance members. And what about conflict resolution styles? What about conflict management styles? So what we can see here, that only low power distance members tend to use collaboration. And if we are a high power culture, it depends on our status. So, if I am in high status in this situation, I use dominating. And if I am low in this culture, low in status, I use accommodation. So, in collaborating, people from low power distance use collaboration more than people from high power distance cultures. Okay, one more dimension, masculinity and femininity. Okay, so Spain is similar to Lithuania. We are moderate on power distance. Okay, so masculinity and femininity, and there is difference between Lithuania and Spain in this dimension. You are moderate. There are 42 points scores for you, and Lithuanians are small in masculinity. So there are only 90 scores for us. Okay, and what about femininity, masculinity culture? So how these values affect our conflict management style. As you see, high masculinity culture tends to use dominating more than low masculinity culture. Low masculinity culture with the values of humility, harmony, helpfulness tends to use accommodating and collaborating more often than dominating. Okay, so this is, okay, let's keep it out, and this is the theoretical part of our topic. And what about Asians? Okay, so let's narrow our topic. Let's compare. Let's think about Japanese, the Koreans, and Chinese, mainland Chinese. Okay. And what do you think? How do you answer to this question? Do Asians differ in preferences to the various conflict management styles? So, who are more likely to use dominating style to solve an interpersonal conflict? Put your answer. This is quiz for you. So put your answer to this question. What do you think? Okay, so the first split is do they differ in their preferences? Do you agree with that? They differ in their preferences. So you have opinion, but it's very. So can you say loudly?
Oh, well, yeah, there are a lot of people, so they must have differences, I guess.
Okay, but why we can think that they are similar? All of them are collectivistic cultures. All of them are high power distance cultures. So maybe this is the fact, and we may think, oh, maybe they are very similar. So, yeah, according to research data, they are different in conflict management styles. So, this is the first part of the answer. And what about dominating? So here I have had the answer Japanese. Do you have another answers? And the most important for me now is, why do you think so? So, so what do you base your opinion on? The war? Yeah, history. Okay, and maybe even that. And what about integrating? Who is more likely to use integrating? And what about avoiding? Okay, so I don't hear all the opinion of all of you, however, so you agree with them, and they say Koreans and you say Koreans. And now I will introduce you the data of researchers. So this is your opinion, and as I understand, it's subjective, your opinion. So let's say it's the first mind comes to your head. So the question is, can we use variations on values we have discussed previous to see differences between these cultures? And what is the prediction? These cultures are not similar in their values. They are quite different in their values. As you see, for example, the dimension of individualist collectivism dimension, Japanese are moderate in this dimension, and the others, so Chinese, Koreans, are, let's say here you can see that they are collectivists in this dimension. The same split, the same differences we can see when we consider power distance the values. So Chinese is quite high in power distance, and the others are moderate. The same is about masculinity. There are differences. Japanese is very high on masculinity, and others, as you see, Chinese is in the middle, and Korea is moderate as well. So, if we compare these cultures and their values, and we use only Hofstede investigation, we see that there are differences. So there should be difference as well on their preferences for conflict management style. However, there is a big problem. Which dimension shall we use to do prediction? And there is one big, let's say, lack in the literature. Mostly of researchers use only one dimension, individualism, collectivism dimension. However, it's not enough to predict behavior, because more values, more broader picture should be known. So how can we use all dimensions, all values? And there is one very interesting, I would say, way to overcome this this narrow view, and this is of Onishi and Bliss. They joined several dimensions into one, and they compute for example, masculinity with long-term orientation to have the image about competition and so on. So, however, this is the way investigators work with this, and this is their lab. So, there is summary of, as you see, 7 investigations. And other Asians as well, data of comparing them is here. However, for today, to answer our questions, Japan, China, and Korea are important for us today. And what do they see? So, according to data, according to investigations, when there are Koreans in the sample, they seem to be more competitive than Japanese and Chinese. So this is the result of the study when the conflict was with the supervisors. This is the result of the study that the conflict was between couples. So Korean couples showed very much hostility compared to Japanese and Chinese couple. And one study, there are Koreans and Japanese, shows that there are no statistically important differences between these three cultures. So according to the data, I would say that Koreans might use dominated more often than Japanese and Chinese. So the next question was about integrating, and according to the data, what do you see? I see that the Thais are most cooperative here, because when we compare Japanese, Hong Kong Chinese, Vietnamese, Thais are the most cooperative. However, when we compare only Japanese, Chinese and Koreans, the results are quite similar, are online, and they shows us that Japanese, according to their instruments, similar instruments, they use integrating more often than the Chinese and Koreans. And what about avoiding? So, Hong Kong Chinese, some white seems to use avoiding more often than the others. However, when we compare Japanese, Chinese and Koreans, according to the findings, Chinese more often tend to use avoiding than Japanese and Koreans. So, that is the data of questionnaires of results, and I should conclude that researchers couldn't explain us these differences in accordance to Hofstad value dimensions. So we need to create more clear model to explain these differences. And the one way to do this is to measure individual values. So when we used that data to compare nations, we used national cultural values. And it is not quite confident way to rely only on national cultural values. So persons need to be investigated as well, and according, for example, according to some researchers, to conclude, it is true that Asian nations may be more similar to each other than to Westernist countries. However, characterizations of an Asian or Eastern approach to conflict management masks important differences that exist in the behavioral organization of Asians. Style preferences develop over a person's lifetime based on a complicated blend of genetics, life experiences, family background, and personal philosophies. First, subject-level values are to be considered as more important than culture-level values, and we still need more instruments to predict our preferences for conflict styles. However, if we think about our preferences, if we think about the preferences of our opponent, we became more competent on conflict management. Because it consists of our self-awareness and of understanding of and his values.